Beard Wizard family, let's try this again. If you happen to catch a little blip of me coming live, I screwed up and went live a little too early, didn't have things set up. Anyway, we're going to do another episode of Beard Wizard Rants, and I'll tell you why. It's been a week, rough week at work, just kind of a little wonky. My furnace went out. That's why I'm bundled up. Furnace is going to be replaced tomorrow. We got the fireplace going. Meanwhile, it is still cold in here. And somebody vandalized my truck. Sometime over the last couple of days, somebody spray painted the tailgate of my truck. So I'm in a mood, and it's not a mood that feels like reviewing music or trying to be happy or trying to, well, I'm going to try to be entertaining, but we'll see. So I thought, why not use that energy? Why not use that mood for a good old rant? A rant about something that's very special and near and dear to my heart. And this is our 1,000th video, so why not do that on our 1,000th video? So if you're here, welcome. If you're in the live stream, say hi. Make sure that you subscribe. Click that red button and join the Beard Wizard family. That's the best way to support us. There are other ways in the video description below, but just subscribing is huge. So what we're going to talk about today on Beard Wizard Rants is the botched handling, the horrible handling of the Dragonlance release from Wizards of the Coast. And to give you a little bit of a background on where I'm coming at from this is, and I talked about this a little bit in a previous rant about the way that WotC handled Weiss and Hickman's new novel series a few months back, or a year ago, I think is when I did that one. I have been a Dragonlance fan since I started reading. One of the very first fantasy books I ever read was The Legend of Huma by Richard Knack. I have, in the library behind me, you're going to find well over 70 Dragonlance books in that library. Down in my gaming library, you are going to find a handful of first edition AD&D and second edition AD&D Dragonlance source books and material and adventures, art books. I have met Weiss and Hickman multiple times and talked to them. Those two authors are the two authors that inspired me the most to do what I do, to write, to tell stories, to create worlds, and to share them with people. So to say that I love Dragonlance is an understatement. I grew up in that world. When I recently read Dragons of Deceit, it was like going home. I hadn't read a new Dragonlance book in a long time. I vowed when Wizards of the Coast released 4th edition, I was never going to give them another dime. I have bought all of my Dragonlance books since then used. Forgotten Realms books too. I enjoy reading those. I bought them all used. I will not give another dime to Wizards of the Coast. So coming out of the gate telling you that right now. I am not doing this because I wish they would do better. I don't think they can do better because it's Wizards of the Coast. If you need any indication that that company cares solely about money and not about the game and not about the fans and not about the legacy, the history of what they acquired, just look at how they handled Magic the Gathering. I started playing that game when Fallen Empires released one of the expansions. So early on, I missed the initial release of Magic the Gathering, but I started playing it really early on. Like, I played with people who still used alpha and beta and unlimited sets before they became extremely valuable. And I jumped off that bandwagon when they just slowly kept adding more and more and more, and it was just buy. And now I saw somebody recently post on Twitter the plan for next year, and the number of expansions and packs and sets that they plan to release is staggering. And I don't know how they expect their fan base to keep up. I mean, when I grew up with Magic, yeah, I was a young adult. I wasn't a teenager anymore, but a lot of their target market was young people. But now it seems like their target market, you have to have a crap load of money to even get started. And they clearly, that's it. They care more about the money than they care about anything else. And sure, companies are supposed to make money. That's the point of being a company. But when you're delivering a fan product, a product that has a history that people love and that people associate with or that they identify with, you have an obligation to be true to that. And that's where I think Wizards of the Coast has failed with my much beloved setting, the Dragonlance setting. And I hoped for a long time, when I heard that they weren't going to touch it way back in the day, and they actually let Weiss and Hickman, or they let Margaret Weiss actually release an RPG set in the Dragonlance world, and all of that, I had hope that maybe we would never see what WotC has become. We would never see them touch Dragonlance, and unfortunately recently they have decided to touch not only Dragonlance but Spelljammer, and we suspect they're going to look into Dark Sun and Planescape too. And I can tell you that I have zero hope that they're going to be able to deliver those legacy products in any way that matches what they came from, the history and lore that Margaret Weiss had. I mean, I saw her first post when she found out that they were doing a Dragonlance source book. She had no idea. They didn't even talk to the people. It was Jeff Grubb for Spelljammer. They didn't even talk to the creators of these worlds when they decided they were going to do this. And sure, they have no obligation to do that, but still, you're not showing the fan base that you really care when you don't even bother to talk to the people who created these things in the first place, when you're about to deliver new installments of this lore. And if you need any further evidence, so I don't know if you guys have been following me or following Yodano or a couple of other guys online that have been talking about this for a while, or even Margaret Weiss. When Margaret Weiss has to call out your typos in your marketing material for the world that she created, that's pretty damn sad. That right there should tell you that you're screwing up, and that's what's been happening recently. So I wanted to share a few things with you. I wanted to talk with you. I've shared some of this stuff online too, and I've gotten some responses from people who, for lack of a better term, are just, suckling at the corporation's teat at this point, because they are making nonsensical excuses for some of the things that are going on. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit too. So I'm going to share some of the screenshots that I pulled off of Twitter, and in some cases I'm posting the source so you can see where these came from. But this one right here, this is one of the first ones I remember seeing, where it says, "Bring the War of the Lance to your table and become the hero that Kern needs." And then a second time, "Bring Kern to your table." If you're not familiar with the world of Dragonlance, the world itself, the name of the world is Krynn, Krynn. Two typos in the same marketing material, and there's 24 total words in that entire box of text. That should take a line editor all of 5 minutes to go over half a dozen times and double check the spelling and text. I mean, if you can't even spell the name of the world where your game is set correctly, you're telling your fan base, you're telling your potential customers, and you're telling the legacy customers, the people who grew up with this stuff, you're telling them you don't care. And now I've had people say, well, it's just a little typo. It's just not a big deal. It's not a little typo. They didn't misspell the word bring. They didn't misspell hero. They misspelled the name of the world, the name of the planet where all of the adventures happen in the Dragonlance saga. That's what they misspelled. That's not a little typo. And twice. That's not a little mistake. That is a huge mistake. And that's just one example. Another recent release was this one, and this is where Margaret had to call this out. And I saw her first call this out on Facebook. And then I saw it on Twitter, and I could not believe what had happened. So, Bon Voyage, they're a play on words, Bon Voyage. Bozak Draconians, like their copper dragon relatives, Bozak Draconians look like their copper dragon relatives. Watch out, when they're downed, their bones explode. Part of that statement is not accurate, and it's the part about them being related to copper dragons. Bozak Draconians come from bronze dragons. If you're not familiar with the world, there's in the setting, these evil magic users learn how to corrupt the eggs of good dragons and turn them into draconians. It's one of the premier unique races in Dragonlance, that predates most of the half-dragon, dragon spawn, dragonborn things that exist in Dungeons and Dragons. Dragonlance really introduced that sort of theme and that feel. But they are very distinctly the corrupted offspring of dragons, not people who mated with dragons, not people who mixed magically with dragons. They're not half dragons. They're not people with dragon blood. They literally are dragons whose babies were corrupted and turned into draconians. And that's very important coming up here. So they can't even get that right. You can go to any fan wiki and look that up. You can open any source book and look this information up. And that's what really bothers me the most is when you are creating, when you are taking a legacy world, when you're taking a legacy product, like Dragonlance or Spelljammer or Planescape or any of those, and you want to re-release new information about those, one would hope that you have the original source material in your library, especially if you are a company that owns Dungeons & Dragons. Does WotC not have at least a digital library of all the original material so that they can reference that when they're talking about, you know, things to come, things that they're mimicking or re-releasing or rebooting or whatever it might be? You would think that they would have the original source material to reference. That's a pretty big mistake. That's somebody guessing. They didn't even bother to look it up, because if they'd looked it up, they wouldn't have gotten this information. So they didn't look it up. They were just guessing. And that, again, when you guess, it tells me you don't give a damn. You don't care. And they want people to buy this product, but they don't care. They don't care enough to even get the text right. They don't care enough to even get the lore or the backgrounds correct. And it doesn't stop there. So this next one, leading into From the Draconians. So Yodano, who is a great source. Check this guy out at Yodano on Twitter. If you are interested in D&D, but especially Dragonlance, this guy is a Dragonlance historian. Like, he literally knows as much, if not more, than I do. And like I said, this library is full of Dragonlance books. All of them I've read. Some of them I've read more than once. This guy could probably keep up with me in a game of Dragonlance trivia. Might even be able to beat me. I don't know. But as he points out here, from their source material... Oh, I'm sorry. Let's back up 1 second, because this post isn't here. I also have to say that Margaret Weiss followed this up with a tweet that says, I have been assured, and I'm going to get this, I'm paraphrasing, I've been assured by source at Wizards of the Coast that this mistake has been corrected in the source book. Meaning it wasn't just in the marketing material this was wrong. This was wrong in the book they were going to release and sell you. This was wrong. Something that you could literally go to the fan wiki and look this up. It would take you 3 seconds to find out where all the different Draconians come from. And they couldn't even be bothered to Google it. And then double check it against the source books that already exist. Or better yet, ask the people who created it. So, and then we get this one right here, because WotC wants to homogenize everything. They want to make everything the same. That's where 5th edition is going, and we're 6th edition. Don't kid yourself. The next edition is coming, and it's going to be subscription-based, and it's going to dig into your pockets even deeper. They want to homogenize it all. They want to remove the uniqueness from everything. They want to take away what makes these worlds and these characters and these species and races. They want to take away what makes them unique and special. And here we have an example of that. In the Dragonlance setting, the followers of the evil god Techesis learned the dark ritual that let them corrupt the eggs of metallic dragons, producing evil dragonborn called Draconians. Now, dragonborn and Draconians are not the same thing. They're not even remotely the same thing. And Draconians came first. I'm sorry to tell you, but they beat you to the punch. Your Dragonborn, your special race that you wanted to create, was maybe inspired by Draconians, but they are not the same thing. But their drive to remove the uniqueness of these campaign settings and these worlds and these things that they didn't create, basically, is what leads them to this. This right here, this is wrong. This text is incorrect, and this is what you're being sold. This is what you're being asked to buy. And then finally, and there's more, but this one, again, bring the War of the Lance to your table and become the hero that Kryn needs. They got Kryn right this time. Play Kender, follow your curiosity for adventure and mischief. Join the forces of legendary. Join with the forces of legendary. I didn't even realize how poorly this sentence is constructed. I was so focused on how badly they spelled the name of the order that join the forces of legendary, like... Where's their line editors? Where's the people who are paid to check this stuff? Like the Knights of Salmnia. So if you're unfamiliar with Dragonlance, that is Salamnia. There is one letter missing that completely changes the sound of that word. A very important letter, because the Knights of Salamnia are one of those unique and very important and very special orders within the world of Dragonlance. They are in every book. They're throughout the history of Dragonlance. They're one of the most important, unique features of that world. And they can't even spell that right. Or the Mages of High Sorcery. I don't even know what that phrase means. The Mages of High Sorcery. No. There's Towers of High Sorcery, where the mages or the wizards live and work and study and teach. But Mages of High Sorcery, I'd have to go back and look, but my brain says that sounds wrong. But that's minuscule. That's minor. That's a minor mistake compared to misspelling the name of the Order of Knights that are featured throughout the Dragonlance saga, all of its books and its history and its source books. Anybody who knows anything about Dragonlance, if you ask them about the Knights, they're going to know the Knights of Salamnia, not the Knights of Salmnia. This is what they want you to buy. Now, I have a suspicion that the reason these things are being done, not these mistakes are being made, but I have a suspicion that like the canceling of Margaret Weiss, Tracy Hickman's most recent books, when they had to file a lawsuit to be allowed to put those books out, I think it's because WotC suddenly saw how popular this was. When Weiss and Hickman announced that new books were coming, Dragonlance fans lost their minds. People who didn't grow up with Dragonlance lost their minds because they're hearing about Dragonlance. They're hearing how cool that world was. They're hearing how special that was to those of us who grew up with it. And they got excited. And Wizards of the Coast went, ooh, we got some money here. We better do something quick. And clearly quick. Because they did it so fast and so sloppy that they can't even get the key features of this world correct. That's why I think they tried to cancel Weiss and Hickman's latest release, because they wanted to own all of it. They wanted to make sure they had all of it. And they didn't want the waters muddied by a series of books that maybe didn't follow a plan, because that's why they put the classic tag on it. If you guys have read the newest book, you know that it's Dragonlance Classics. Well, yeah, but you know what that means? That means we know which ones are the right ones. We know which ones are true to the history. We know which ones are true to the vision and the world that was created by Weiss and Hickman. And make no bones about it, Weiss and Hickman were very intentional in the way they created that world. That world is special because of them. That world is special because of the Don Perrins and the Richard Knacks and the Michael Williams and Larry Elmore and, all of those people who were involved in building that world from the ground up, from its visuals to its poetry, to its stories, to its religion and its history and all that. Those people built that world from nothing and delivered it to us fans who fell in love with that world, who literally would spend hours and hours and days and weeks and years studying and playing and reading and living in that world because it was so beautiful and so unique and so vibrant and so alive. This is a poor, cheap knockoff. This is the world of Kern. This is not the world of Kryn. This is not Dragonlance. This is WotC's attempt to Disneyfy and homogenize and cash in on nostalgia. They are hoping that enough new fans who don't know any better, who grew up hearing how cool Dragonlance was but never experienced it, would be willing to spend money on this mess and fill their pockets with more green and not question it, not bother to ask, not bother to look. I saw a text, and I think it's been fixed, but I saw a text when they referred to Kender as thieves. I couldn't find it. I tried to find it, so I can't say for 100% certain that it was legit that I saw, but I did read it months ago. And if you know, Kender aren't thieves. Kender are borrowers. They would be offended. A Kender would be offended to be called a thief. Yes, they take things that don't belong to them, but they don't steal them. Those things just happen to find their way into their pouches, and they found them for you because you probably dropped them somewhere. And they would be glad to give it back to you if you just let them know that they had something of yours. But anyway, people need to pay attention. You know, you 5th edition fans that are responding to these things with, oh, it's just a little typo, it's just a little mistake, it's just a little thing. This should be your evidence that this company does not care about the game, it does not care about the history, the lore, it does not care about the fans, especially the older fans. They want money, and they will sell you whatever it takes to get it. And I don't care what they say. I don't care what their staff says, how much they love this game. This tells me that they don't. They don't care. So don't give them your money. Don't give WotC any more money. These books, if you want to play Dragonlance in 5th edition or 4th edition or 3rd edition or Pathfinder or any other system, just go find one of the old source books. I guarantee you'll find them. Go to eBay. Look up 1st edition, 2nd edition Dragonlance books. You'll find them. You'll find them cheap. Go Drive Through RPG, I think, has a lot of PDF stuff you can pick up. Go to your local game store and look for the old Dragonlance books. They're there. I guarantee them. I guarantee you. I found them. That's where I found them. I found the Atlas of the Dragonlance Saga years ago at a used bookstore. Found Leaves from the End of the Last Home at a gaming store. The original Dragonlance, I have the original Dragonlance source book I ordered from War Games West when it was brand new when I was in high school. But it's still out there. I've seen it. I've seen copies of it in local gaming stores on their used bookshelves. Go find your original source material. Use that. Conversion is easy. Boys and girls, I'm telling you, you don't need a 5th edition book to play 5th edition whatever you want. Just like you don't need 5th edition at all. You can play Dragonlance and Pathfinder. Use the Pathfinder system. Use something else. Use basic RPG. Doesn't matter. If you want to play in the world of Kryn, you do not need to buy these books. You do not need to give Dragonlance more money. You do not need to give WotC more money. You don't need to subscribe to their D&D Beyond 6th edition, micro transaction, whatever BS that they're coming out with. You don't need to do that. Go buy the original books. Go talk to the original people. Go talk to the fans. If you wanted to ask questions of Weiss, I tell you what, Margaret Weiss will answer almost anything you ask her. It may take her a little while, but if you follow her on Twitter and you ask her a question, she'll answer it. She's done it many times. Many times with me, Yodano, several people you see. She loves talking to people about her world because she loves it. And that right there is why you should be looking to her and not this. Because she loves it, and you can tell she loves it. You can tell it's still in her heart. You can tell it's still her baby. So, I could go on and on and on and on. But all I'm going to say is pay attention. Don't give any more money to this garbage. I don't care if they apologize. Oh, we're going to correct it. It should have been right in the first place. These aren't typos. These aren't misspellings of common words in a sentence because somebody was rushing. These are misspellings of key features, key names, key points and parts of the world that they say they care about. And they don't care because if they cared, they'd double check that shit, and they're not double checking it. So that's my rant. Thank you for listening. Let me know what you think in the comments. Share it out there. Share it on social media. Share it with your friends. Leave me comments. Hit me up on Twitter. Hit me up on Facebook, whatever. All that stuff's linked in the video description below. Weiss, Hickman, Miss Weiss, Mr. Hickman, if you're watching, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for giving us the world of Dragonlance. I cannot tell you what it means to me, my family, my kid, My kid loves it. My wife loves it. Everybody I talk to loves it. This world is more than just a setting to watch, to read books in. This world is like home to many of us. Going back and reading these books feels like going home. And I can't say what that means, when we go through hard times in our lives, when we're struggling, when we're stressed out. Sometimes just picking up the current book I'm reading. I know this is set. This is newer stuff. This is not written by Weiss and Hickman, but this is their world. This is about the last time their world was their world, is when these books came out. It still means something. So thank you so much. And yeah, that's it for me. I will see you guys again soon. You have a great one.